I'm Mark De Nieffe, and I'm delighted to welcome today Andy Taylor of Taylormade Performance to the Business Unwrapped podcast. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Hey Mark, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Much appreciated.
Oh, it's lovely to see you. Andy, I guess the natural question for me to ask is, tell me all about TaylorMade and how long you've been going and what you do.
Sure. So we're a health and wellness business. So there's me alongside my wife Claire, and we look after clients for many reasons. Really, they come to us for mainly recovering from injuries or helping them to improve their lifestyle through the advanced health tests that we do, and the customized fitness programs and clinical Pilates programs that we run. We've been set up since 2010. We both moved out of professional football. I was a professional player, and Claire was a physio, first at Exeter City, and then she moved to Plymouth Argyle and worked with the youth team first of all and ran all the youth and academy programs, and then she took over as the first team physio as well for a period, and then decided that we would like to kind of take that idea and set up on our own. So then
Fantastic.
we moved that approach to working with the general public.
That's brilliant. What do you think makes you sort of stand out, Andy, as in that wellness sphere?
Well, I think the idea that we moved out of professional sport with was to, well, we have a tailored response, hence our name, Tailormade, because we worked together synergistically, myself and Claire. Certainly from an injury perspective, that she would deal with those early stages of diagnosis and treatment, and then helping someone on that journey to recover back to full fitness. So we understand this from a professional athlete's perspective, that if they've had an injury or they're coming back from surgery, that there's this process and journey to come back from. And it's been our experience of working with clients that they often get left in this process, and they're not knowing what to do, how much, when to progress their recovery. So we support them along that journey to help them get back to the things that they want to do, and give them the advice and knowledge in order to do that effectively. We also offer the first out of lab assessment for insulin resistance, which is the first of its kind. And insulin resistance is at the root cause of the metabolic health problems that we see in our UK and worldwide population. So this has potentially a huge benefit of knowledge and understanding for someone to improve their long-term health outcomes.
That's amazing. And people can just approach you just to get those tests as well. And so if they just wanted to get those tests done, they can get them done by you.
Yep. So they come to our clinic. They will spend 2 to 3 hours with us if they want the full assessment of, because what we do for this test is we do some fasting measures, and we do a lipid profile. So we test the cholesterol and in particular, which doesn't often get done, the triglycerides, and that is one of the key ones for that lipid profile. That's the fats in the blood. And we measure glucose and insulin. But what we specialize in is what we call a postprandial assessment, measuring particularly insulin alongside the glucose. And the reason that's important is, and beyond just a fasting measure, is we ask you to drink 75 grams of glucose, and then we watch how your body metabolizes that. What is the response of glucose and what is the response of insulin after you take that load? And it's like viewing a car on the driveway. It looks good, but you don't really know how it drives until you take it out on the road. And that's really what you're testing by this oral glucose tolerance test is the name of it. And it was developed by Dr. Joseph Kraft, who was a pathologist who identified, with being able to measure insulin, that 50% of the patients that he measured, half of them, that 50% had normal glucose, but actually when you measured insulin alongside, that's where it showed the dysfunction. So without that insulin assessment alongside it, you'd miss half of that diagnosis. So it shows the real key reason of, one, that you don't do just a fasting measure, because that can be normal as well. And we've seen that in many clients, that fasting measures are normal. But when did we do those postprandial assessments? That's when we really identify where the dysfunction is. And that just really allows you to provide and help with the coaching that you can provide after that, in terms of the foods that would be an insulin lowering diet. And we've seen amazing changes to people's health by having that knowledge and making those changes to their diet.
I bet you have. And I mean, there can't be many places in our region, sunny Devon, where people can get those sort of services. I wouldn't have thought.
There's nowhere. And there won't be a lab that do it. If you went to your GP and asked for an insulin test, because you're not you don't have any symptoms, they'll say, well, it's not needed. And if you did manage to get an insulin test by a lab, it would generally be just a fasting measure. And again, as I just explained, the fasting measure won't give you the whole story. So the fact that you can do it here in and out of lab, and you have the test results right there and then, and you watch the curve start to develop while you're sat here and you can visually see what's going on, is hugely powerful and motivating for the client to go, that's why I've struggled to lose weight, or I'm having these symptoms of high blood pressure, or I'm struggling with diabetes, or they might be pre-diabetic and they don't even know it. Because their glucose has been normal. They've been going to their GP and it's in normal range, but with no idea of what insulin's having to do in the background to keep glucose in that normal range. And that's what you identify through this test. And so it gives you the earliest possible marker to make a change before you get the problems of that diagnosis, where eventually insulin can't keep up because it's just getting overloaded with glucose all the time. And then you go to your GP and glucose is now out of range, and they turn around to you and say that you're diabetic. You could have known that 15, 20 years ago that you're on that trajectory and made changes then before the problem even occurs.
That's fantastic. What a great service, Andy. Well, going back, I mean, just earlier you said that you started in 2010. You came from, in your own background, a professional footballer. So what's your business journey been like? Fast forwarding 14 years.
Yeah. So we've grown very slowly. And when I moved out of football, I towards when I was making that transition, I retrained, went to university. I knew what I wanted to. I started my career at Manchester United, and I had a bad injury which really got in the way of me ever progressing to the first team, having been an apprentice and then signed a professional contract. So I understood my body and recovery, and I had in my mind if I was going to do something after playing, then it would be to try and help others to try and mitigate that risk. And certainly with young players or young athletes to try and minimize that risk for them and prepare them for the rigors of the sport. Now, strength conditioning has accelerated over the last 10 years, and it's involved now in many sports and is a mainstay for preparation for elite athletes now. And more it's developing for young athletes. And 14 years ago, I started at Ivy Bridge Community College and ran an athletic development program for a state school, which was unique in itself, but certainly working with young athletes. So you had these thriving students in a variety of sports that they were involved in, to support their long-term kind of athletic journey. So I ran that for nearly 400 children across the school, developing that program to coincide with the other training that they did in their sport. And I learned a hell of a lot on that journey about preparation and working with particularly young athletes, and creating a long-term athlete development journey, and turning a physical literacy into physical legacy. And that was hugely kind of rewarding for me from my own kind of personal background. So having the opportunity to do that was a great kind of testing ground for me, and a great education for me as a coach of working with lots of different abilities and children, and also then working alongside that in the evenings of slowly building up my own personal business and working with a range of age groups and different sports, but also different abilities of people coming to see me for general health and fitness advice and programs. So we've built up our own premises over the last 14 years. So we're now set up, our clinic and gym are based at home and treatment room, which has worked brilliantly around our two young children. So it allows for Claire to look after the boys while I'm working, and vice versa. And we can just switch in and out and make sure that we'll look after our family's needs as well as our business needs as well. So that's been our journey over the last 14 years to get to this point. In the last 12 months, that's when I took the decision that I was going to leave the school and that program. The business was at a point where I felt that I could make that transition to go into our business full time and take that next step forward about progressing the business further.
Fantastic. So we've seen how you've got there, and we now know a lot more of the, frankly, brilliant services you offer. What's the future got in hold for you, and what do you think the challenges coming with that will be?
I think a vision for the future would be to, for the combination of the types of services that we offer, is to build that and replicate that as a health hub, that tailored approach. So using that those specialized services and replicate it as a kind of tailored brand in other locations around the UK. And make sure that is a holistic offering for people in this country and maybe beyond. Who knows? Certainly from the metabolic health perspective, that's well needed. That's only increasing across the world, and not showing any signs of slowing down. So there's a real need for improvement in metabolic health, and what people need to do in order to reverse that. And a lot of that comes back to the types of foods that we eat. And there's some real education to be done around that. And the earlier that education can be done, even the better. So that's what I see as a vision for the future. I guess the kind of barriers or things to overcome in that is how we manage that growth and who we bring on board to help manage that, and bringing the right people in that share the same kind of values and ethos that we do as a business. That follow those values, and can replicate what me and Claire offer. I suppose that's the hardest thing to replicate, is if people are coming to us because of me and Claire's, how do you replicate that? So certainly looking at employing the right people that are able to bring that same service is something that will be a big consideration for us as we develop that as a business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the team you have around you will sculpt the business as it goes further. And yeah, that's the same, I think, with most businesses, frankly, as well. So yeah, I mean, you've gone from being employed to working on your own business to being completely self-employed now, and obviously thriving with this service that you provide. What advice do you have for that budding person, or the person who's got it maybe working still, but is still working on business? What advice can you give them, if any, or any insights to what they need to do?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned, certainly over the last 12 months, is learning to have patience, and learning that everything eventually moves into form in its own kind of sweet time. It may not happen as quickly as you would like to sometimes, and sometimes you think, is this happening? Is it going to happen? But it does come to fruition eventually, and with perseverance and patience, that certainly it does happen. And I would say if you really have a strong feeling for something, do your due diligence, but go for it and give everything that you've got towards it, because if that feeling is strong enough, you will make it happen. Whatever, you will be successful. So that would be my advice to anyone that's got an idea, had an idea, but not quite pushed the button on it. If that's feeling strong enough, do it. But certainly do your due diligence before, and go for it.
I think that's the passionate ex-footballer coming out there as well, isn't it? I think, goal, passion, planning, that sort of it is a tough gig when you start by yourself, and it's making sure that you got your ducks in a row, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and can be quite isolating sometimes. It can be quite lonely. That's the word I was looking for. It can feel quite lonely, especially when you've come out of a job with colleagues, because you're around people all the time, and then when you're working for yourself, you haven't got that around you. And something that and this might come into a bit of advice as well. Something that I found that's been really helpful is connecting with business networking groups and going along, weekly to a group, and just having that opportunity to chat with others in the same situation as you, and being able to share good things that are happening, bad things, advice, because you will connect with people that have a huge amount of advice, that have been running businesses for years.
That makes perfect sense, Andy. So what or who, or a combination of the two, inspires you, Andy, on your business journey?
I think there's probably a deep-rooted aspect of wanting to help people that comes from parents, particularly my dad, paramedic for 40 years.
Right.
Sorry, excuse me.
That's all right, Jan.
Um, um, so to give you a bit of background, is yeah, my dad was a paramedic for 40 years, and kind of dedicated his life to helping people. So I think that's had a huge impact on me. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, he's not in a good state of health.
I'm sorry to
So
hear that.
I think that inspires me to really have a legacy to help people. And unfortunately, what I know now was a little bit too late for him, but it won't be too late for others that I get to work with and help. And I think that's hugely inspiring for me to want to make this business work and to reach as many people as possible.
And yes, that's truly inspiring to me too, chap, listening to you there. And I'm sure you'll get to that point where you and the group of people that you are going to build and build this out throughout the UK and perhaps beyond is going to be doing exactly what that, helping people. I think that is so commendable, my friend. Before we wrap up, I guess any any news coming from Taylormade Performance that you'd like to give today? Anything new coming about?
Yeah, we are about to run our first. It's a retreat, but like a wellness immersion weekend in September, and it's our first kind of foray into running an event like this. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help people reconnect with their health. So across the weekend, it will allow people to come together, discuss about their health with others on that same journey, learn about food, eat at a couple of great local restaurants, and also have an opportunity to engage with the services that we offer across that weekend. So we will have the health testing on one of the mornings across the weekend. We will have a guided walk on the coast and in the forest nearby. We will have a clinical Pilates session with Claire to give people an understanding about the way their body moves and limitations and how to overcome those, and a strength development session about how to build strength into your lifestyle. So people will have that real reconnect with their health, have some information about where it's at, some tools to take away and to implement, and then be able to come back again on another retreat a few months after and reassess on where their journey's kind of going and check things are going in the right direction. So we're really excited about starting that. That's the 20th to the 22nd of September, and yeah, from the Friday to the Sunday, and yeah, we've got those services on offer across the weekend. The accommodation isn't included, but we have a great selection list and variety of places to stay in the local area to come and access the weekend.
It's a fantastic area where you're based, and that sounds like an absolutely great weekend.
Yeah.
A combination of a lot of the things that I love, and you get the benefits of all those services. Fantastic, Andy. Listen, thank you so much, chap, for being on today. Um, Really inspirational, and I know from knowing you and also from what you've been talking about that you're just going to have a very successful time here with TaylorMade. It's a great service and a great business. Thank you again, Andy, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been great to chat to you.
My pleasure, chap. Take care of yourself.